The 14th year of Chenghua. Chapter 35. The Mad Tyrant, Eunuch Wang. As fully expected, Eunuch Wang responded to this with a cold laugh. Why should I care who you are? In my presence, dragons need to make room and tigers need to lay down. This isn't somewhere you can sit. Get lost. Tang Fan lifted his head. He observed that the other two were wearing ordinary clothes but that couldn't cover up their fierce and aggressive aura nor their plenty robust builds. They looked like they could be the match of a couple of expert hands. In an area like the capital, being able to come across characters of note at any place and at any time wasn't outrageous at all. In a place teeming with government officials, there were those that didn't want to be seen in the light of day. Meanwhile in the underworld, there were all sorts of divine creatures and monsters, all running about. On top of that, there was those who believed that those creatures of the underworld were also in the capital. Sometimes, they did not only believe they were in the capital but that they had contact with authorities at times, even colluding with them. Even though they were inferior in power to the canal gang in Jiangnan that could cover the sky with one hand, they were still figures that could walk with confidence in the capital. However, this was still ultimately the capital, of course. They didn't dare to be too impetuous when faced with those really high up in ranks, but for ordinary officials, they didn't place much importance on them. The two before them had airs of cockiness all across their faces. It was entirely impossible to tell whether they were that of this world or the underworld at first glance. After coming out of the palace, Tang Fan had followed Eunuch Wang's example in changing into normal clothes so as to be inconspicuous. However, as a minor 6th rank official in the capital, he really wasn't seen as anything much and had little power to intimidate the poor common people. His official uniform wouldn't have any use against genuine nobles and would likely just bring some unnecessary troubles should he exert authority. In contrast, and despite the change of clothes, Eunuch Wang hadn't managed to shed his role, which was bringing trouble. The other men didn't take Wang Zhi's words seriously at all. They still took the seats opposite them and was even mockingly laughing as they heard them said, "We're only taking a seat. What's wrong about that?" Wang Zhi was about to get mad. Tang Fan hurriedly held him back and said, "It's fine, all right. I haven't eaten all day, just let me do that in peace first." He quickly tried to put out the fire on his end, but the other two still didn't realize what fate they were tempting. Seeing Wang Zhi and Tang Fan together, one as feminine and pretty as a woman and one clearly a refined egghead, one opened his mouth and mocked, "A scholar and a little lady dressing up as a man came out for a walk down the streets, eh? Which family do you come from? This little miss has such a big temper, how will she ever get married in the future? Won't she have to become a lioness and tame her husband into obedience?" His partner grinned along with him. "You might be wrong, there. Maybe it's different behind closed doors. If that spicy energy gets used in bed, hee, that'd be a real joy. This scholarly man probably isn't able to handle such a forceful little lady." Tang Fan. He didn't know how eunuchs' thoughts worked, but from the perspective of typical men, they would never like to be mistaken for women, especially someone with power like Eunuch Wang, where he didn't even respect the 6 ministries. Those that legitimately dared to insult him to his face probably hadn't been born yet. As if to verify his conjecture, Wang Zhi subsequently slapped the table. "Sons of bitches. You're sick of being alive, huh?" As was said, power was the most effective aphrodisiac. Even if he was a eunuch and his looks were inviting ridicule from the two men, it's a fact that his words and actions were superior to that of other men. His strength was something Tang Fan had personally learned of through experience, and he was a lot stronger than him. The table didn't immediately break into 4 pieces like how it would in fantasy stories, but all the bowls and chopsticks lifted up from the force, sending broth spraying everywhere. Even Master Tang's lapels and sleeves got splashed in some places. Tang Fan. Who in the world had he angered today? Under these circumstances, wantons were no longer wanted. Before the other two could react, Eunuch Wang directly smashed a bowl of wontons over their heads. They naturally got mad and shouted, "You bastard," and then charged out with their fists, not even pulling back their sleeves. Wang Zhi laughed mockingly. He had grown up in the inner study hall of the palace since childhood. In addition to teaching the eunuchs how to read and write, their teachers would instruct them in martial arts so that they could protect the emperor if there came to be an unexpected situation. The teachers requested by the royal family were naturally not the inferior one who were all show and no substance, so Wang Zhi truly wasn't afraid of these men. Even if he had no big group of underlings with him, he definitely would not be beaten. Thus, he fought two enemies head-on, overturning the entire table to smash them with it. Liquid went all over the place with the dishes, bowls, and chopsticks all noisily breaking into pieces. They couldn't dodge it in time, getting splashed a bit. One went around the edge to outflank him from two sides, one went around the other to grab him. Wang Zhi didn't step away. One of his hands caught the fist that was thrown at him exactly at the right position to wring the other man's wrist. With only a crack heard, that wrist's joints were easily twisted. Whether it was broken to pieces or dislocated was unknown. The man howled, and Wang Zhi bent a knee to slam it ruthlessly into his crotch. His entire body went limp. Even Tang Fan, watching from the side, felt his pain. At that instant, the second man's figure threw itself over. Wang Zhi just grabbed the man he had taken care of and pushed him forward, making him stumble uncontrollably towards his companion and fall over. The man's friend was still nimble, directly avoiding him, flipping around, then throwing a punch towards Wang Zhi's face all the same. All of this happened in the span of no more than a few seconds. Both parties were martial artists of keen talent and swift fists. The onlookers only saw a bunch of blurs, yet the event was already mostly over. Wang Zhi gave a sinister comment of, "You're a bit better," then twisted to the side. Taking advantage of the moment the other was charging over, he snatched the man's belt while his other hand borrowed the ending momentum of his fist, acting along with it to push, turn, and twist, thus flipping the whole person over onto the ground, a true marvel of using gentleness to overcome strength and taking another's power as their own. Before the man had time to get up, Eunuch Wang stepped on his chest, preventing him from moving. "Do you still want to fight?" It was currently the best hour of business for the wonton stall, else the two men would have found another available table other than the one where Tang Fan and Wang Zhi was. However, the men's mouths were a bit too loose and they couldn't recognize the giant before them, resulting in them offending a major demon king. After the proprietress had learned of Wang Zhi's identity, she presumably also informed the proprietor. As they now witnessed the tables and chairs getting thrown around with the dishes and wares smashing onto the ground, the pair was too afraid to come over and plead with them. The pair could only shrink back, looking on helplessly. The bystanders knew nothing and merely watching the three men had a go at it. This burst of battle was exciting as they witnessed Wang Zhi taking two men on by himself, the force of his two fists suppressing four palms. It was truly a performance more wondrous than one on a stage. Every person watching couldn't wait to add fuel to the fire, giving Wang Zhi a big round of applause. There was even someone that shouted, "Go again." Mr. Tang stood to the side with his hands in his sleeves, face blank as he mentally lamented. "By the heavens, by the earth, I still didn't get to eat dinner." For the numerous times he had come and gone from this wonton stall to eat, he had never gone through anything like this before. With today's edition of Wang Zhi, troubles were falling right out of the sky. Nay, Eunuch Wang had incited all of this to begin with. The two men couldn't get up from the ground. One had gotten kicked in the groin and one had gotten stomped on the chest. At this point, whether they wouldn't or couldn't admit it, they were defeated on principle. "Don't you know who we are?" one of them bellowed. "You dared pick a fight with the people of the Eastern Depot? You better run, if you can." Bang! As soon as they heard that, many of those watching the commotion promptly scattered. Only a handful remained standing there stubbornly, wanting to watch the excitement get carried on to its conclusion. So, they were from the Eastern Depot, no wonder they were so overbearing. Eunuch Wang would definitely be taking that excuse to kick up a fuss. Tang Fan massaged his forehead. Not only was he hungry but he had a headache now, too. In this imperial capital full of government officials, the name Eastern Depot was supernaturally terrifying. The two men had believed that with the announcement of their affiliations, their opponent would throw themselves down to the ground and kneel to beg for forgiveness, yet the feminine-looking pretty man wasn't fearful at all. On the contrary, he smiled and mockingly asked, "Oh, the Eastern Depot. Which squad leader do you belong to?" Some people should really check their horoscope before they went out for the day. These two were truly unlucky. Relying on the Eastern Depot's prestige, they sauntered about the capital as they normally would, but today had run into someone who didn't fear the Eastern Depot. They probably haven't heard of this situation before. One of them men continued cursing, wanting Wang Ji to announce his own name, while the other one finally seemed to get some brains. "What post is your esteemed self in? Please state it clearly." They really couldn't be blamed for not thinking that he was probably a eunuch. First, Eunuch Wang may look feminine, but his behavior wasn't like one at all. As one could tell from the recent scuffle, he was more vicious than those from the Eastern Depot and easily hit them at their weak points. Second, lots of eunuchs in the capital held high authority, just like their director Eunuch Shang. They had harkas announcing their arrival and was usually surrounded by followers, just like how stars circled around the moon. Why would any of them sit here and eat wontons worth a couple of coins each? Wang Ji huffed derisively. Before he could respond, a peal of hard-hitting and quick footsteps was heard coming closer. "Make way. The 5 districts' military office will take care of this. Idlers, stand by." Goodness. Another gang of officials. The crowd moved aside and made way. A 5 districts official wearing a headcloth and a zayajia came into view. There were many government offices in the capital. When foreigners came in for business and thought to sell their goods to the locals, they wouldn't know which one to head to first. Additionally, the functions of many departments overlapped. Take keeping public law and order for example. Shuntian Prefecture took care of it, all the counties managed by the prefecture took care of it, the Jinyue took care of it, both eastern and western depots took care of it, and this 5 districts military office that belonged to the Ministry of War very similarly took care of it. That led to chaos, of course. Sometimes, something would happen and they would all scramble to take care of it. Sometimes, they would all pass on the responsibility onto each other. Thankfully, though, since they were under the emperor's feet, things couldn't get too excessive. As could be seen, the 5 districts men had arrived late and only after the fighting was already done. The leading official gave an approximate glance around, brows starting to furrow. "What's going on here? Everyone state your names. You'll be coming back to the office." The man that was covering his crotch with a twisted up face pointed at Wang Ji and shouted, "We're from the Eastern Depot, subordinate to squad leader Zhou. He dared to battle with us. Arrest him." The scholar next to him, too. They're accomplices. When the man from the 5 district heard Eastern Depot, he mentally cursed his poor luck, feeling that he had arrived too soon and should have just acted completely deaf and dumb. It wouldn't be good for him to turn around and leave now though, so his expression sunk and he put on a show of asking Wang Ji, "You two sure have guts, to dare to beat officials up? Do you have no regard for state law?" Eunuch Wang straightened out his sleeves, brushed off the dirt on his clothes, and laughed mockingly at the other man's words. "It would be my right to hit even Shang Ming if he showed up, let alone these 2 underlings of his. If you lot want to handle this, just take them away and have Shang Ming pick them up himself. If you don't have the nerve to do that, then get lost right now and quit playing sheep." Once the man from 5 districts heard that, he knew that the other had someone of renown backing him up if he was unafraid of offending even the Eastern Depot director. With his speech inevitably commanding some respect, he cupped his hands and didn't dare to shout his next question. What is your distinguished name? Eunuch Wang put his hands behind his back and answered coldly, Western Depot, Wang. Shi Chenghua. Shi Chenghua. When had any notable figures in the capital ever had the surname Shi? And with such an odd given name, too. While the man from the 5 districts hadn't grasped the point yet and was still mulling it over, the two laying on the ground seemed to have already had their epiphanies. Their faces went pale and even their teeth chattered non-stop. Eunuch Wang continued to keep his haughty pose. Tang Fan, seeing that his fight had been fought, people had been scolded and anger had more or less gone, came over to say to him, "You're done, right? You ate and drank enough, so you're fine, but I'm still hungry." Noticing his weak demeanor, Wang Zhi curled his lip. All scholars are useless. The man from the 5 districts finally had a realization, his facial expression changing drastically. Regret reigned in his heart. Had he known who they were earlier, he never would have come to mind other people's business. The Eastern Depot versus the Western Depot was nothing other than dogs biting each other, ahem, gods duking it out. What did it have to do with their 5 districts' military office? He quickly gathered himself before him and pulled out a smile. This lowly one didn't recognize your might, nor did I know you would grace us with your presence. However, these two are from the Eastern Depot, and we can't afford to offend them. Wouldn't it be better to? Wang Zhi huffed coldly, then spoke to the 2 men from Eastern Depot. If you two are not resolved yet and want to settle matters, just go tell Shang Ming to call on me himself. With that, he flung his sleeves out and left abruptly. Exasperated, Tang Fan had to go pick up the pieces Eunuch Wang had left behind. He gave a number of coins to compensate the wonton stall couple and told them that there was nothing to be afraid of. After comforting them and getting out of the crowd, he discovered that Eunuch Wang was standing not far away in front of a roasted lamb skewer stall, holding a skewer in one hand and eating happily away. Seeing that Tang Fan had found him, he handed over the lamb skewer he held in the other hand and also mocked him. You civil officials constantly open your mouths to puff air and scold people sneakier than anyone else, but can't be counted on when something actually happens. Tang Fan accepted the skewer, then sprinkled fennel and sesame on it, their aroma assailing the nose. Not caring enough to bicker with Eunuch Wang, he speedily ate the meat clean, then held up a hand to the stall owner. 2 more skewers. Got it? The owner nimbly dabbed oil on the lamb skewers, flipped them and added spices evenly to them. When they were golden roasted and dripping with fat, tender on the inside and fragrant on the outside, he passed them over to Tang Fan. After the 2 skewers were in his stomach, Master Tang finally had the strength to say something. Eunuch Wang, you are a highly capable person that I can't compare to, but if you're going to hang out with me, I'm going to have to inconvenience you with being magnanimous, be slightly empathetic and subdued in your actions, lest the memorials denouncing me pile up into a mountain tomorrow. His words were soft, but there was rigidness within them. He was not at all scared to say something on account of Wang Zhi's high status. That actually happened to be why Wang Zhi got along fairly well with him, even though the latter was a tyrant with the skills to match. He was willing to concede a bit to people that caught his eye, else he'd get lonely at the top. If there was seriously never even one person he could socialize with, what fun was there in existing? Hearing him say that, Eunuch Wang objected. What are you scared of? I'd only need to say some pretty words before His Majesty. Those censors could berate you until the heavens broke and it still wouldn't do anything to you. Tang Fan shook his head. Civil officials had need for a particular reputation and face, so it wouldn't go like how Wang Zhi said it would. Still, he didn't argue any more with him about the issue, merely saying, it's gotten late. I should go home. I'll enter the palace again tomorrow, so I'll trouble you to go with me then. What? You're just going home now? Wang Zhi asked doubtfully. Tang Fan didn't understood it. What else would I do other than that? Wang Zhi's face said stop acting. Brothels. Don't you lot like going there the most when the lanterns start getting lit? Tang Fan felt annoyed again. The Ming Dynasty has decreed that officials are not to go wenching. Wang Ji sneered. Still acting, are you? Tell me, how many of you actually follow that? The last time someone in the cabinet invited me for drinks, he got a song girl to accompany him. Could it be that you don't like song girls but rent boys? Confronted with the annoying and tyrannical eunuch Wang, Tang Fan had a mouthful of words he couldn't say aloud. No matter how good his self-restraint, it was for naught in from of this man. Tang Fan had no idea how to react to him. If you have the mood for that, eunuch Wang, I won't be keeping your company for it. I'm shouldering an imperial order, how could I dare to be unbridled? I truly am exhausted today. From both investigating the case and running all over the place, then accompanying your brawl. Anything further would best be discussed tomorrow. What do you mean, accompanying? You just stood there and watched. Sure. I was watching your brawl. Seeing that the other looked so tired that he craved death, Wang Ji had to berate him for his uselessness as he let him go. Upon parting ways with Wang Ji, Tang Fan finally let out a sigh of relief. Once he returned home, he found that a figure was bounding over to come open the door. You're back, Gig. Have you eaten yet? I made stewed meat and stuffed bitter melon, are you having any? Dong started to nag, making a fuss over nothing. Geez, how come I was gone for only 1 day but you already got so haggard? Did you miss me that much? Only then did he remember that she had had a sleepover at the Sui residence. She probably came back during the day, but because he himself had gone into the palace very early for the case, he had forgotten that tidbit. Following his departure from the palace, the wonton noodle broth and yubbing he had been about to eat were all ruined by eunuch Wang, and the 3 lamb skewers he had was only enough to stuff the spaces between his teeth. As soon as he heard that there was still food, he was practically moved to full-on tears and couldn't help but caress Dong's head. Having a sister like you is like having a treasure. She giggled happily and said, go and wash your hands now, then come eat. Hey, isn't Brother Sui coming back for dinner? Tang Fan cleaned his hands, then sat at the dining table. No, he went on another assignment out of town. By the way, a few people came over today. They said their surname was Han, and they needed to see you. I said you weren't here and they left, leaving a card behind. Tang Fan raised a brow. Han. Yes. One said his name was Han Hui, someone from the youth minister of the Crown Prince family. He said, he had come on his father's orders. Tang Fan nodded. I see. He asked nothing else, nor did he go to read the card. After eating, he washed up, then put out the lights and went to sleep. At dawn the next morning, he went straight to the palace gates. He arrived early but hadn't expected that Wang Ji would arrive even earlier. The other was stern-faced, an expression he has to maintain while inside the palace. He had none of the carelessness from yesterday. Tang Fan didn't have the mind to mess around either. In accordance with what he had said to Wang Ji, he first went to the Palace of Celebrating Humanity to start inquiring, then headed along westwards. Any and every place Han Zhao might have gone to, he had to individually check. With such roundabout way of doing the work, he naturally reaped very little result. It was because he was following his agreement with the Crown Prince that he didn't simply go straight to the West Palace, thus avoiding anyone seeing something was off. He was really doing his best to fulfill it. However, Wang Ji's judgment was some kind of incredible, as he still discovered the issue even with things like this. Why do I get the feeling that you're beating around the bush to go look for someone in particular? Tang Fan remained calm. Han Zhao was young and mischievous. Even though the palace is strictly guarded and it would have been impossible for him to run all around, he'd still been here for a long time and was a playmate of the crowned princes, as well. Children are playful at heart and love to fool around, and others concerned about his status alongside the crowned prince might not have questioned him. Everyone that had come into contact with him is a suspect, so I must interrogate them one by one. You're saying things I already know, Wang Zhi answered impatiently, but honest people don't speak in hidden words. We're on the same boat now. It'd be best if you didn't keep anything from me, or else I won't be able to help you should something happens. Tang Fan knew that Wang Zhi wanted to get in good grace of the crowned prince, or he wouldn't have made him come over to investigate the case otherwise. However, they were still not familiar with each other to the extent that he would tell him everything. He was also still unsure of where the other man's bottom line lied, and was even less sure of whether he would take this matter for his own gain after the fact, by possibly taking the information about Empress Wu and giving it to Consort Wan for credit. If Consort Wan retaliated against her because of this, that would then be tantamount to him violating the promise between him and the crowned prince. Therefore, after pondering things, he still deigned to tell the truth, but only by saying, "Be at ease, eunuch Wang." Wang Zhi looked at him coldly for a short moment. It was impossible to say if he gleaned something from that or not, but he didn't say anything else. Tang Fan couldn't give him a clear explanation, but could still show a bit of good faith to him so as not to actually anger him. If they got split apart from one hit, that wouldn't be good for either of them. Actually, judging by the time frame, Han Zhao's death might not have had anything to do with the palace. I'm just adhering to investigation standards here, then I'll go to the Han residence. Wang Zhi's eyes shone. Are you saying someone from the Han family could also be the killer? Tang Fan knew what he was thinking from one glance at the look in his eyes. It's only a possibility, he stressed. From before Han Zhao left home to the time of his sudden death, everyone that had been in contact with him in over 2 Shishan period is a possible suspect. Wang Zhi didn't take it to heart. Since you've said it, I'll be remembering that this possibility exists. Tang Fan had been wanting to understand the circumstances of the Han family, so he went with the flow to ask. Han Fang took no concubines and only has one wife, Lady Lin, Wang Zhi answered. The couple has a decent relationship, but never had any sons, so they adopted one and named him Han Hui. Unexpectedly, after some years, Lady Lin became an old oyster making a pearl and birthed a son. That was Han Zhao. How great was that for them? Wang Zhi smiled oddly. The Han family has been made of officials for generations. Han Fang's father and brother are high officials in court. Their ancestors were natives of Jiangxi, but starting from the generation of Han Fang's father, Han Qi, they relocated to the capital and settled down here. Han Qi had 3 sons, the eldest branch Han Yu, the second branch Han Fang, and the third died young, so I won't bother talking about him. All 3 branches came from Han Qi's wife, Lady Zhou. However, there's always been speculations within the household that said Han Fang's birth mother was not actually her but rather a maid concubine that met an untimely death, whereupon Lady Zhou adopted him. Han Qi and Lady Zhou preferred their eldest and weren't as great towards their second son, being just as harsh to their second daughter-in-law, Lady Lin. That further encouraged the rumors to spread, to the point that Han Fang himself believed them. Because Lady Lin couldn't have children when they were young, she suffered much torment. The adoption of Han Hui was due to her not being able to give birth, on top of Han Fang refusing to take concubines, so Lady Zhou forced them to adopt him. Han Fang actually isn't Lady Zhou's, then? Tang Fan asked, like a gossip monger. Wang Zhi side-eyed him. This has nothing to do with the case, but after His Majesty ascended the throne, Han Fang became his teacher and his status went rising with the high tide. Lady Lin then birthed Han Zhao, meaning she didn't need to be mistreated any longer and could stand up tall when speaking with her mother-in-law. For all these years, her relationship with her sister-in-law, Lady Wang, hasn't been great. Likewise, Lady Zhou had once wanted to make Han Fang divorce Lady Lin on the grounds of her not being able to bear children, then marry her niece, Junior Lady Zhou. Han Fang refused to divorce his wife and Junior Lady Zhou refused to be a concubine, so the matter was left up in the air. Nowadays, though, the junior Lady Zhou is a widow and has been staying at the Han residence as a guest this whole time. Tang Fan simply listened to the story. That must mean that Lady Lin has made enemies of a good lot of people. In the midst of their talk, they had already arrived at the West Palace. This was an out-of-sight, out-of-mind palace of exile, bleak, desolate, and chilling even in broad daylight. Weeds overgrew through the cracks in the stone underfoot, no one keeping them in check. The sun shining elsewhere in the palace complex would look golden with splendor, its magnificence unmatched, but it was only here that it instead had a hint of coldness. Some imperial concubines of the late emperors lived in the vicinity of the Empress Dowager's palace. Lady Wu was the only one that had been spurned and deposed in decades, so they found her easily, heading straight to the room where she lived. 2 attendants stood watch at the West Palace gate. When Tang Fan and Wang Zhi came up, the young eunuch beside the latter stepped forth to announce their identities and purpose. The servants scrambled up right away, stammered out flatteries to Wang Zhi, then enthusiastically led the way for them themselves. Wang Zhi was quite impatient, waving his hand to have the young eunuch reward the two, then oust them. As it was still midday, Lady Wu had shifted a chair outside to bask in the sunlight outside her room. There was only a single maid at her side, who was in the midst of patting the other's back with a soft cushion. Even though Lady Wu had been deposed, it was impossible for her to be unattended in her everyday life. In accompaniment with her loss of power, some of the maids and eunuchs from her previous Empress Palace followed her here to continue to serve her. Inevitably, her day-to-day funds were never to conform to their former state again, and imperial concubines dressed to the nines would no longer come pay respects to her in this place. Those originally appointed to serve Lady Wu had believed themselves to have climbed onto a high branch, but in the unexpected blink of an eye, the Empress became a demoted prisoner, and they suffered much of the same. Hardships manifested people's hearts. Over these many years, some people had pushed open the door and left, while some yet remained by her side. Personnel changed, came and went, which was normal. Outsiders had suddenly appeared in the Palace of Exile, where no strangers had ever come in a long time. The maid paused her hand's movement, somewhat shocked, and looked at them. Tang Fan came over and cupped his hands towards Lady Wu. This humble official is Tang Fan. I have been ordered to investigate Han Zhao's case, and there are some things I'd like to ask Lady Wu about. Lady Wu continued to completely ignore him, still looking ahead into the distance. The Crown Prince had said that because she had been deposed for a good period of time, she'd been mentally unstable for quite a while. Neither Tang Fan nor Wang Zhi knew whether it was real insanity or fake madness, but grandeur wouldn't work against a woman like this. Tang Fan wasn't discouraged, proceeding to give a brief explanation of what had happened. Once she heard the part about Han Zhao's death, Lady Wu's expression slightly changed and she finally looked at him. Han Zhao is dead, the maid couldn't help but cry out in shock. Tang Fan nodded. Right when he brought up that Consort Wan's reputation had taken a hit because of this, Lady Wu started to laugh. Ha ha ha. Good and evil will get paid its due, she said out of nowhere. Good and evil will get paid its due. It's not that it wasn't paid back, the time just hadn't come yet. It was said that prior to his death, he had previously come to the West Palace to play, Tang Fan said. I ask that you explain this event so that I can find the real killer out as soon as possible. Lady Wu went back to paying him no mind, continuously chanting good and evil will get paid its due, on repeat. Tang Fan subconsciously sensed that she wasn't insane at all. She just didn't want to talk to him. Still, he knew that this was just her way of protecting herself out of a lack of options. She could only let it be spread about that she had gone mad, or Consort Wan likely wouldn't let her off. Right then, the maid came forth. Gentlemen, I serve by Lady Wu's side, and I never leave it for a second all day long. Her mind is currently fuzzy, making her difficult to communicate with. Can I answer on her behalf? Of course you may. She looked upset. Some days ago, there was indeed a child that lost his way while playing around and entered this place by mistake. He was led away quickly, though. I had asked him his full name at the time and he said he was Han Zhao. I didn't expect that. Tang Fan knew that if the crowned prince had occasionally entrusted Han Zhao with visiting Lady Wu under the pretext of losing his way whilst playing, then the maid had surely long been familiar with him. In order to not reveal the relationship between Lady Wu and the crowned prince, she spoke lies here and now with open eyes, making Tang Fan unable to see through them. But the grief on her face didn't seem to be deliberately faked. The crowned prince had a special status, and couldn't drop by in person. Those attending him were also continuously under surveillance by Consort Wan, so he could only trust an outsider like Han Zhao with coming here once in a while. This cold palace was lonesome. For this maid and Lady Wu, he had to have been one of their very few consolations. Allow me to ask you this, when Han Zhao was here, did he come into contact with anyone other than you and Lady Wu? The maid shook her head. He didn't. His cause of death was unusual. He died from getting pierced by a broken chunk of needle in his Shufan acupuncture point by someone else. While he said this, his eyes constantly went back and forth between the maid and Lady Wu in observation, only to see that they voluntarily gave expressions of shock that didn't look to be an act at all. He had already done his research. Lady Wu herself did not have even a little bit of medical knowledge, while her maid had entered the palace in the 7th year of Tianshun, having come from a poor family. Just 1 year later, she was assigned to serve Lady Wu. Prior to that, she had never been to the Imperial Hospital nor had she had any sort of contact with its doctors. Think carefully. When Han Zhao was here with you, did he ever show any signs of having something wrong with him? He asked. She did indeed think back carefully on it. He did appear to constantly have a hand scratching his stomach. Then, she answered with a bit of guilt. I had asked him about it and he said it felt a bit itchy and painful. I merely thought he had been bitten by a mosquito and never considered other possibilities. If I had found out earlier, his life might have been saved. When he left, who brought him out? An attendant from the crown prince's side, named Yuan Liang. End chapter.